Welcome, Bon.
Hi there. Thank you for having
How are
me.
you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Bon, you've got such a great story, and I know you don't think so. It's but it's such a so inspiring, and it's such an honest, open story that helps other people who might have an idea, or even who may have an idea and then end up heading into another direction. It gives people, I guess your story helps to let people off the hook a little bit from putting so much pressure on themselves to try and, be perfect and meet demand and without caring about what's important to them. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. And I have to tell people, I asked Bon and she said, no, you don't want to interview me. But yes, I absolutely do want to interview Bon because, as I said, all of those things in the start. So your flower sprinkles are absolutely booming and they're just everywhere now. And we had a conversation before we started recording that, you're not the average farmer,
No.
you're doing flower sprinkles, and it's kind of a little bit of an eccentric thing and an odd thing, but what the benefit that it brings, to the food, it just lights food up and it makes food so much enjoyable, and it brings sort of cheeriness and color and delight. And, I think that's missing in a lot of our foods now. We quickly slap stuff together and we forget to really savor the delight of how it looks.
We call it the fancy factor. There's a longer version that I had to Google what AF means at the end, but we call it fancy AF. And I just love that they bring them because they bring me so much happiness, and I'm loving that everyone else loves sprinkling as well. It makes me so happy.
Oh, I agree with you. I think I love, the thoughts of sprinkling fairy dust and sprinkling magic and sprinkling positivity, and the whole word sprinkle, it has such a loving sort of it's kind of like sparkle and sprinkle, and it's got a gentleness about it, but it's still full of its own excitement, and I
absolutely. And it's doing something for yourself as well, because let's face it, you could put sausages and mash and veggies on your plate and just, but putting some sprinkles on means you just put a little bit more love into it, or, and giving yourself some love as well, even if it's just for you.
I agree. And it always brings a smile. And then you don't want to eat the food. Yeah.
That's never my problem. Especially Kate.
Not mine either. Our COVID, I can't speak for you, but I've got a COVID belly, and it's evidence that I don't mind some food. But
yes, we look at photos before then.
I know. I was doing that the other day, looked at a photo before, and I thought, oh man, okay, anyway, never mind. And the other thing I forgot to mention too is that there's some nutritional benefits, like there's, vitamin A, vitamin C, riboflavin, a whole lot of others. I had to Google that, to be honest, because I knew there was benefits and I didn't know what they were. But so edible flowers I think it's really taken off lately. That, it used to be like, you can't eat that, don't eat that, don't eat that stuff, and now it's kind of like, oh, can I eat that?
Yeah.
Can I eat that?
Yeah. I have to say, if you're going to do it yourself, I just have to put this out there, you need to research every single flower. That you can't just go and pick a flower and think, oh, it's great. Yeah. But there is nutritional benefits. However, we're just here for the fancy factor. It's just for us, there's such small amounts that you add to each meal that you can't really hope for the best out of it. But, telling the kids or whatever that they're getting vitamins and minerals, go for it, because, any bit to encourage the kids to eat some. But, it's just one of those amazing parts that it's the bright and cheeriness and, and getting berry diet, which helps. So a lot of our plant-based customers really love them as well, just because, it's right up their alley.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, me too. I eat plant-based, but it's the I think also there's a great saying, and I don't remember who said it, but I remember hearing this years and years ago. Food that is consumed when you're happy, it nourishes your soul, and food that's consumed when you're grumpy puts toxins into your soul. And I don't know whether that's true, or your body at least. And I don't know how true that is, but I go by that. So I try never to eat when I'm in a crappy mood, because I'm a bit scared of that. But honestly, like, how can you not be happy when you got colourful sprinkles?
That's a wonderful way of approaching it. I think it's a really good idea. So
yeah, I think so too. And if you're going to have Macca's on the run, just be in a good mood when you take it.
Sorry, I eat a lot of ice cream when I'm grumpy.
That's actually true. We usually get that shit when we're grumpy. Anyway, let's talk about. So tell us about this. Like in the intro, I talked about you started off with a suburban garden with Dave, and just tell us about that. Like, when you got together, did you just look at your backyard and went, "Oh God, I got to do something," or did you have a real love for it?
So I always wanted to garden, but up in New South Wales, where I'm from, I'm allergic to everything, and I mean everything outside. Plus, on top of that, I'm actually scared of a lot of animals. And I wish I was lying about that, and I wish I could say being with nature just was really natural to me, but it wasn't. But I knew I wanted to be able to garden. And Dave, my partner, is just a natural gardener, and he uses it as a stress relief. So we moved to Tengabby, and we had just your typical suburban house and house block. And out the back, Dave formed it with me. I was there. I transformed it from this basic grass into a absolute oasis paradise. And we planted, if you think of it typical standard, he had fruit trees in there. He had like multiple garden beds, and we used from the Diggers Club their techniques of how to feed a family in a certain amount of per square metre. And that was great. We had food coming out all year round. We had berries. We had everything in there. And one of my favourite moments out of that was that when my daughter was 18 months old, we got a babysitter in so I could go do tuck shop on a Friday once a fortnight, because that's why you get a day off, isn't it? So you can do tuck shop. And I basically said to her babysitter, who was this young, beautiful, natural, I would call her almost a hippie. I said to her, just take Emma outside at morning tea time. She'll take you out there and you can go, she'll show you what you can eat. And it was amazing that through my daughter and son, they knew what they could pick and eat and everything else. And it was just, it was an oasis, and it was some time that we could spend out there. And look, I'm sure there was plenty of arguments, like trying to, like getting jobs done with kids and little kids and all the rest of it. And Emma was always filthy, and Sam was always, pushing dirt around on a wheelbarrow or whatever. But it was such a happy little environment, and I learnt so much in that space. So we did it in quite a small area, but the amount of produce that we had coming out, it was great. I loved sharing the produce with neighbours and friends and all that kind of stuff. So it was lovely. So
I think that's fabulous. A couple of things in that. The kids probably have damn good immune systems, digging around in the dirt, which is something I think a lot of kids miss now. Yeah. But the other thing too is, just a few weeks ago I had Emma McNallis on, and she's talking exactly the same thing, converting a backyard into she had, I think, 13 garden beds and veggie gardens and 23 fruit trees, and she inspired me to get I had big chunks of wood sitting out the yard. I've been looking out my window watching these chunks of wood thing, and geez, one day we've got to put them up. Anyway, after I recorded with her, I thought, geez, you better get out there. So we've just constructed veggie gardens, and I've been looking out the window saying, God, there's all this like bare ground under the fruit trees, and that could be made into something. So we're going to start. Why not use the land constructively? Why have bare land just sitting there that you can't use? And it's
just, I know everyone finds different things satisfying, but like the just pure joy of pulling my first beetroot that I'd grown. I'd only ever eaten, and like I've had a great background, like growing up and everything else, don't get me wrong. I've only ever eaten sliced beetroot out of a tin. I had to Google how to cook beetroot, and it was just the best thing ever. And I know it's a beetroot, but it just was so so satisfying to learn how to grow your own fruit and veg. So yeah, I just can't recommend it enough. And look, we made mistakes. Like there was flops and fails of different crops and everything else, but it's just going, oh well, it was only a seed packet, who cares? Or it was only a packet of seedlings, you know, we'll try again next time. So and you know, and one thing about gardening is that it will make you realize to be humble, because you know, you can like grow an epic garlic crop one year, for example, and just go, I am the boss at growing garlic, and then next year it will fail, and you'll just think, what I did nothing different.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things that keeps you very humble, which I love about it. Back in my box a lot. So
I love that you've said that, because so, you know, people get labeled green thumbs, and other people are like, well, I'm a green thumb disaster, you know, and that sort of stuff. And I think you saying that is perfect, because, you know, people might listen to this and think, oh yeah, but Bon, you know, I had Emma on, she knows what she's doing, Bon knows what she's doing, you know, I'm never successful. But I think it's fantastic to hear that. And I think, you know, evidence, I'm looking right at my window right now, and I get this beautiful little lemon tree. But when we moved here 4 years ago, it was drought, and this poor lemon tree was just this sagging, like it was just, and I kept saying, is it dead? You know, we're looking at it, and I said, I'm just going to keep putting water on it, because I love lemon trees, and they're my favorite trees, lemon trees. And then we've had a year of rain. Well, it is flourishing, it is bursting with these beautiful lemons, and all it wanted was just sitting there going, water me, please water me.
Exactly. You just had to put some love into it, and that's what gardening requires. It's not high maintenance, but it's a bit needy. Like, let's put it like that. You've just got to allocate some time and all the rest to it. So yes, I allocate more time to my garden than I do my housekeeping, but I'm fine with that now. Like once upon a time I was really uncomfortable, but I'm like, my rows out there are so straight, and all the rest of it. My house isn't straight, but my rows are really straight in the garden.
And I think that's important too. We've got a big dog and a smaller dog, and the big dog traipses through the mud. It's been raining for 2 weeks here, and it's just, you know, he just traipses through the mud. And we just give up, and we used to be like, right, weekends we're going to clean the house, and now we're like, no way, we're outside, and we're doing, because you feel so much better, you feel fantastic. And I agree with that, giving it some love. We've got tomatoes, we got no idea, it must be birds must drop seeds. We have got this tomato whole plantation that comes up, and we have got thousands of freaking tomatoes when they come up, and I'm talking thousands. We can't, and as soon as we started tying them up, because they were just growing everywhere, we said, no, let's stake them and tie them up. Oh my God, they changed. Like their leaves changed. They just became really rich, and it was amazing. And anyway, they say you should sing to your plants, so it suits me out there buzzing along. But
I give mine some encouragement pep talk sometimes, like, you know, you're not flowering enough, guys. Come on, get it together. And I think my neighbours are too young. They can make memes out of me. Like, if they want to see me going, come on, guys, get it together to the violas. Yeah, it could be bad. But anyway, I make sure I'm very nice to them.
You could write a whole book about the crazy sprinkle lady, perhaps.
I'm waiting for it.
So you've got a background in hotels, and then as a truck driver, which is interesting itself. And you could have made a career of that. And Dave's into civil construction and drives trucks and all that kind of stuff. But you know, when you did that, your backyard garden, your suburban garden, did that sort of really, you know, was there a point there where you started to think, this could be a career? We could actually turn this into a lifestyle and give up the other?
Look, Dave always had dreams of retiring and then selling produce from our place and all the rest of it. He always dreamed of land, and I, as I mentioned, am scared of everything, so was terrified of that. But at the same time, I was more than happy to go along and do all that. So we always kept an eye on for property and everything else, but we coming out to Seaton, we kind of went, all right, if you want to stay at home, like, or be at home during the day with the kids, to me, like, we're going to have to sort of work this out. Plus, we wanted to establish it for ourselves anyway. Like, we moved to 10 acres, and we have not put all the place to garden, but there's a large amount of it now. But we basically, we were just like, how can we work this so that it can pay for itself? And then from there, it's evolved a lot, because, you know, everyone, a lot of people in our situation watch Move to the, what is that? Country, not Move to the Country, but River Cottage. They all watch that. I can't believe you haven't. So we watched the Australian version, and we were just like, yes, we want to move to the country and have pigs and have this and have that and sell our farm boxes and all the rest of it. But when you move to the country, you're in the country, and and we're not that far away from, you know, anywhere, but it's harder to turn around and compete with big farms and everything else. And so we quickly realised that there is no way we can make selling vegetables and all that kind of stuff to local restaurants and all that viable, because, you know, yes, we've got restaurants 10 kilometres away, but, you know, they're more cafes, but the next biggest one's 25 minutes away, and that's a lot for, you know, some zucchinis and things like that. So we had to realise that we had to get smart about it. And I always loved flowers. Well, not always loved flowers. Like, I loved flowers, and I thought, well, how about through coming out here that I could grow cut flowers? But even then, I've still got to get them to florists and who are 45 minutes away either way and things like that. So we had to just keep adjusting and sort of go, yeah, that's not going to be right. You know, how can we make it? And through COVID, we turned around. I'd always been working towards making sprinkles, like making a dried long shelf life, but it was more my restaurants that were already using the fresh, that we turned around and said, we can't make this viable. Like, and it was no fault of anyone's, like, all our restaurants closed and everything else, or went to takeaway. And, you know, it was just heartbreaking for them, because you could just see how much stress it was putting on all our clients. And we sort of went, you know what, it's time to, like, take the bull by the horns and go for it. So we converted to sprinkle farm and converted it to a dry farm. We were really lucky. All of our clients, except for one, our corporate clients, like restaurants and cafes, changed to dried sprinkles, because for them it was a long shelf life product. So we went from having edible fresh flowers for 2 to 3 weeks in a container, to, you know, you've got years with the dried ones. So I started making blends and concoctions, and I always imagine it's like a witch's, like, people, how do you make your blends? And I'm like there with my cauldron, like, you know, stirring the blends up. But yeah, we were just so lucky. Everyone took it on board, and my friends, like, that were just like, yes, we were at home baking with the kids. They wanted to do it, and I've got chefs that are at home and foodie friends. And it just sort of got out there, and all of a sudden we're now posting Australia-wide, and we're now like selling wholesale to people retailing our products. And it's just like, yes, you know, it was the toughest decision. And I was almost like, I was crying before we did the announcement on Instagram, like, and Dave's like, you know, we just need to do it. And like, once it's done, yes, you can delete it, but, you know, let's just tell everyone. And it was just something that we went, it's like slipped in for us. And that was 3 years on the farm. Yes. So it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. It was 3 years of us trying to pivot and, you know, find our way. So you know, the Virgo in me doesn't want to be flexible, but I've just had to be flexible and enjoy the process. So, and one of my old bosses at neighbours, one of the best things he ever told me, it was so simple, is one door closes and the next one will open. So you just got to roll with it until the next one opens. And when I started listening to him, it just became so much easier.
Yeah. And it's so good that you're sharing all this, because you know, like I've said on so many episodes, there's no such thing as an overnight success, and it's so bloody rare if that ever happens. You know, it's just a fluke if that ever happens. But there's so many years of struggle, you know, behind the scenes, and you're talking about pivoting, well, adjusting, because we're sick of pivot, you know, adjust,
okay,
you know, well, you know, COVID, but it's you have to be you have to do this. I mean, I've done this so many times too. I've shifted to things, you know, depending on what people are asking for. And I mean, clearly someone's asking me to dig their drains. I'm not a drain digger. I'm not going to go do that. But you know, I'm sort of like now back doing team building again, you know, from years ago. And it's because people start asking me, well, why aren't you doing team building? I'm like, no, I'm sort of not doing that anymore. And then, but everyone wants to pay me for it, you know, so it's of course I'm going to do it, but it's kind of, I think that we have to listen to what, two things. We have to listen to our heart, you know, so we have to do what we enjoy, but we also have to listen to what's going on. But I think that, you know, sometimes we can have an idea, we're going to grow fruit and veggies for to supply. And then when it's I'm going to call it a failure, but it's not, you know, then when we perceive it to fail, then we often run with our tail between our legs, and we say, well, yeah, everyone's going to laugh at me. If I do something else, they're going to criticize me because my thing I decided to do and I so proudly stated didn't work, and they're going to think that, you know, I'm a loser, and we get ourselves into this. It's a ridiculous state of narrative about what we think other people are saying. They're not freaking saying it. Like, they're interested in their own bloody lives.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Just keep your head down and bum up. It's like a typical gardener stance, but just keep going. And if you have a network of people around you that are happy to pick you up and put you back on your feet and go toddle on, you need to like make sure you keep that kind of network around you. So don't get me wrong, I've, you know, got people who think I'm batshit crazy, and that's fine. Like, you know, I embrace that. It took a while, and being your own business, you can't help but take things personally, and I don't have the ability to just deflect things off. So I've had to turn around and ask, like, what would you do in this situation? I'm lucky that I've got a network of friends that will turn around and say, yeah, you need to not worry about that person anymore, or you need to like just keep on going, it's fine. Or yes, turn around and tell them bugger off. Like, but you just having a bouncing board is an amazing thing that you need to do to just keep going. Like, and you just need to keep moving on and on and on. And I know that's it can be so frustrating at the time, and you can get so bogged down in one single moment by one single comment. But just keep going. That's all I can say. Like, and utilize friends. Friends are happy to help you. The right friends are.
100%. And none of us are immune to that. You know, I've had dickheads, you know, making comments on Facebook, not friends, just strangers, you know, and they're just, they are just freaking trolls. You know, they love spending their time bringing other people down. And when you think about the rationale of that, like, why would you be bogged down by the comments and thoughts of complete dickheads? You know, but we are, and the only way we can move past that is to have that network that is, and I think Gippsland in particular, and I'm not just, I know sometimes I sound pro Gippsland, but that's just because that's where I live, but I know that we have a massive group of particularly women, you know, small business owner women.
Yes.
And we back each other. Like, by God, we will pick each other up, you know, because we're none of us are about to see anyone fall, you know, and if we'll do what we have to do to, and I'm bloody proud of that. You know, I'm really, really bloody proud of the women up here.
And I think you just have to realise that sometimes you need to scope out of your demographic. So, like, when it comes to age, for example, I have a network of women that I would hate to say the eldest age because I wouldn't even know, like down to, you know, early 20s who are starting business. And it's just everyone has different perspectives on the same situation, and
Yep.
It's great to have that network around you.
Yeah.
So
100%. And don't just stick with your girlfriends. You know, like you might have friends from school. I do know people who have got like the same 5 friends from school, and that's fantastic. But they're not always the ones that have got the best advice. So they're the ones that you get together on a Friday night, well, when we're not in lockdown, and have your drinks, but they may not be the same ones that are going to give you the best advice. And, you know, sometimes they're trying to look after you. And they say, oh, just give it up. Just why don't you just get a job, you know, because we hate seeing you in pain. And so you've really got to think about who's giving you advice. Now, I'm not saying don't get advice from your best friends or your family, but often we do have to have people outside of that to help us.
Yeah, it's I was actually thinking about this last night. You need to have people that want to see you succeed. Around you. So yes, they can be friends, or you know, but it's all about having people that want the best for you, so are happy for you. So you know, it's like you don't ever want to. You have to talk about it, but not talk like tall poppy syndrome and all the rest of it. But like you want people that will turn around and say, "Hey, give this a crack," and that only want to see you succeed. Yep,
because believe it or not, there are people in your network who don't want to see you succeed simply because it doesn't serve them and their lack of security. And, you know, I'm saying that very bluntly, but most of us do have people around us that will happily pull us down, and not because they want to hurt us, but because they don't feel safe if we're moving forward. And that's their toxic friendships, toxic relationships, and it's people are very reluctant to actually move those people on, because it's like, what will people say about me? I'm going to lose friends. But then I'm going to say it bluntly, are they your friends? Do you know? And we don't have this conversation often enough. Do you know?
And I think you're so vulnerable anyway, having your own small business. And exposing yourself to all that kind of behavior is just heartbreaking. So you have to protect your heart in small business, and because you know you are just that vulnerable, and I wasn't ready for that vulnerability. I could stand up like in previous work and have all the confidence in the world because I was there representing that company, and I should have the same confidence in myself, and I do in my products and everything else. But to stand up, and when people are just being jerks, which you get on social media, it's just heartbreaking. And I was just like, I know one comment in particular that near on sent me like to my room to hide under my doona kind of thing. And I just think it still affects me now. I know that person's crazy, but like you can't help but take it personally. So out of small business, I highly recommend having that network. So, you know, someone that'll come pull the doona off your head and say, come on, let's go again. So
no, 100%, and it's happened to me too. And it just one comment has knocked me off my feet for a month, you know. And I refuse to post ads on public ads on Facebook. You know, my partner's constantly on me. Don't let one dickhead upset you, you know. But it is really, really hard, you know. And you know, a friend of mine, she supports women's rights, you know, very, very strong advocate for it. And these men on LinkedIn were making all these derogatory comments, like on LinkedIn, you know, like grow up. And
why would you?
I don't know, why would you? And I don't even understand why would you have that fucking mentality. Anyway, I shouldn't have sworn, but
I did it first.
Sweared. Listen to me, my good grammar. It's you know, like, I don't think there's an answer to this. I don't think there's a solution to this. I think that we're all human. We're all going to get knocked off our feet. We're going to get punched in the heart, you know, by things. But at the end of the day, we've got to think about, well, are they a person that's relevant in our life? No, they're not. And should we have a crappy life because of some moron who has got nothing better to do than sit behind the bloody computer, hide behind the computer, then tick away like what a freaking miserable life they must have. You know, if that's all they've got to look forward to is getting up and attacking other people. I can't stand those freaking people. And I don't give a shit if I get bad comments from that saying that. I don't care, because what disgusting freaking behaviour, to carry
just
on.
showing good examples of themselves, aren't they, for your for what you're talking about?
Exactly.
And
exactly.
Yeah, it's just protecting yourself. So I'm totally agree with you.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, we better get off all that. Otherwise, we're going to get down a rabbit burrow. And wait.
I think it's an important one, though.
Yeah, who knows where it's going to lead. Now, your grandmother, she had a flower farm. Was it? Did that sort of? I don't know. Have you got fond memories of that? Like, did you think I'm going to be like my nana? Anything like that?
Well, to be honest, so I visited the farm when I was young, when there was flowers, but I can't actually remember any flowers in the actual fields, but I can remember the buckets because I'd hop in the car with Poppy and head down to the florist to drop the buckets of flowers off. And I was your stereotypical little pink girl that did ballet and did all that kind of stuff. So having these buckets of flowers were just beautiful in my eyes. And so they had finished up a while on, but I just don't remember flowers in the field at all. And that makes me really sad that I can't, but I've got fond memories now. Nanny passed away a couple of years ago, but I was talking to Nanny about our place and, how I was growing dahlias. And she's like, "You're what?" And I said, "Well, yeah, Nanny, they're the most beautiful flowers." And she goes, "Yes, we grew them then. Aren't they out of fashion?" I said, "Oh, no, Nanny, they're so trendy now." And she's like, "Oh." You could just hear that, like, "Oh, you young folk," in her like mannerisms. So it must have been those in the buckets that I can remember, but I just remember these big, beautiful blooms of flowers, and I just the excitement of going and delivering to the florist. So it's really sad that I can't remember them in the field, but like my aunts and uncles all tell me, and mum and dad tell me how beautiful it was. Hard work, Bronwyn, but like I couldn't care less. I just love walking around my field when I've got all these dahlias in bloom and all the rest of it, and walking around shaking it like I own the place. Like, it's been really wonderful to experience that myself. So, and it was lovely to be able to talk to my grandmother about it before she'd passed away. And I, telling her that we're growing zinnias, and she was just like, what? And like, so, it's nice that, it's come full circle again. So, all trends come back, don't they? But the dahlias really shocked her.
Yeah, they do come back. It's probably in your DNA too. So there's probably this flower DNA that's coming right through. But you just mentioned there that, your zinnia and that you're growing them. And wasn't it a zinnia that started your whole flower excitement?
Yes. So when we had the place at Tingabi, so it was all just vegetables. And I mean, vegetable, like, give it to me all. And Dave, we sort of watch Gardening Australia because, I'm not almost 40, I'm 140 in the way I behave. And I was sitting there watching, and we read the Diggers Club like it was, gospel and everything else. And they were like companion planting, and it kind of spiked my interest. And I was like, "Oh, Dave, do you reckon we should like plant some stuff to attract bees and everything else?" Because I'd always loved the thought of bees and everything else. And Dave's like, "Yeah, for sure, let's do it." So we planted some zinnia seeds and marigolds and all the rest of it. And I was spending, it was only a small garden, but I'd spend a lot of time down there, and you could see it from my kitchen window and everything else. And one day, all of a sudden, this zinnia flower, and I don't know if I had to find out what they were. I didn't know what they were beforehand. It's just this big bright bloom, and it was pink, and then I had an orange one, and I mean, it was electric orange. And I just looked at it, and I'm like, we grew that. And I think it was almost on the beetroot level of excitement. And so it was really interesting, and just seeing all the different insects that were attracted to it. And all of a sudden we had ladybirds and bees in the garden and all the rest of it. And I just sort of thought, this is what you're meant to be doing. I don't have many things that I will talk publicly about. I keep my Instagram very not PC, but I'm neutral. And one thing that will get me riled up is Roundup. It's my thing. I don't like it. Yeah. And realizing that you can garden naturally and, attract the right bugs and all the rest of it. and having a little bit of faith as well, in the sense of, if I see aphids on my roses, I know that 3 weeks' time I'll have ladybugs. So I just need to breathe and tap the aphids off in the meantime.
Yeah.
And doing things like that. The companion planting just got me hooked. And I mean hooked. I was researching what I could match and all the rest of it. And all of a sudden our gardens became a very different looking garden, because it was just interplanting some flowers in with some, we ended up with better crops, we ended up with better produce and all the rest of it, because
Wow.
it was just such a happier environment. So when we moved out to Seaton, our property was bare. It had I'm assuming, well, the previous owners had really bragged and were super proud about their mowing. He loved mowing, and that's what the paddocks were. They had, we had 2 gum trees in the middle of the paddock and a lemon tree as well. So we were very lucky about the lemon tree. It's beautiful. And it was just a clean slate from there. But moving out to here, it was dry, we came in drought and all the rest of it. And I mean, there was so much love required to go into the property. And that, when I say love going into property, it generally means me shoveling horse poo, cow poo, sheep poo, it went on, and nutrients. And the first year there was a grasshopper plague, so I had all these dahlias planted, and I was like, look at me on this, dry ground. I've still got dahlias in there with my veggies and all the rest of it. And the ground would move. I had no idea that grasshoppers were like that. And so you'd walk and the whole ground would just move, and I'd be out at night time. And I know this might upset people, but I'm going to have to say it, grasshoppers are slower at night time, so we were out catching grasshoppers at night time, getting rid of them. And I just can't even, there was one night I was out there and I'm just crying, and because my dahlias that I had orders for fresh flowers were all half chewed. And I was just like, how am I going to do this? Why am I doing this? I am stupid, and just that role that goes through your head. And I was like, I've just got to keep getting these grasshoppers one at a time. And even the kids were like, is Mum all right? And Dave would be like, she's just going out to deal with the grasshoppers, love. She'll be all right. She'll come back in soon. Just now I think about it, I'm like, how was I meant to find the grasshopper? It's just one of these things. I had to do the process, and it's just, in every business, you just got to do what you've got to do. And then we had harlequin bugs. I've never known what a harlequin bug was before, and I had to learn about those stinky little things. And but then all of a sudden there was a shift, and I reckon it was around 2.5 to 3.5 years in between, where we were just like, there's more good bugs. I can see more ladybirds. I can see this, and then all of a sudden, all that time we'd spent naturally dealing with everything. It wasn't instant, but it was once again a process, and we got there. So look, bring on this summer. Who knows what bug I'm going to be introduced to this year? But just so you know, I'm out there loving my garden and dealing with it the most natural way I can. So yeah, it was fun.
Oh, we've got lots of harlequin bugs too. What you said, that was interesting. I mean, I'm sure I want to go back, because I'm sure a lot of people want to hear that again. You said about the aphids, and I'll just shake them off, and in 3 weeks I'll have ladybugs. Tell us more about that, because I think we all look at our roses and go, bloody aphids. So what happens in that process with the ladybugs?
So I use my aphids. I use my roses for edible flowers, of course, and also for bouquets. So we have little petite whole roses, and we have big roses that we dry the petals and everything else. So I never, ever want sprays or anything near my roses. And it was just one of these things that I saw on the internet, I'm sure of it, and it was true, that basically you need to plant the right things in your garden that will attract it. One of the best things that you can grow is yarrow, and you can grow in between your roses or just off to a bit, and that will attract your ladybugs into your farm. And I have to admit, I'm standing on the middle of my farm, 40-degree heat, in the drought, everything else, thinking, what am I going to do? And next minute I saw on the dill, there was ladybirds. And I just thought, brilliant. these guys are coming in to do your hard work, and they will do the hard work for you. I'm forever posting about them all during summer about ladybirds and all the rest of it. But there's also and they'll come in and eat your aphids. They eat a huge amount of aphids.
Wow.
A lot, and then they shag the whole time. Like they're just the funniest little creatures, and I can't help but love them. So you just have to embrace the ladybug and plant as many flowering herbs as you can. So chive flowers, dill is, I don't even get any dill out of my dill. I just plant them for the ladybirds and things like that, and that will attract them. And sunflowers, that seems to attract them as well.
Wow. See, now that piece of information in itself is so damn helpful, because I didn't know that, and we get aphids, and I look at them and think, oh, bloody aphids. And I've heard things like where you mix milk and water together and spray them and it's natural. And I tried that when I was in Trafalgar. That didn't work. And it's like, and I won't spray. I'm not spraying the bloody roses either with any stuff. And it's like, I just put up with them, but I feel defeated. Do you know?
Yeah.
And so
just ignore them.
So just try and attract more ladybugs. I didn't know ladybugs. Isn't it funny how you're talking about Roundup and stuff? We often look at insects like they're just insects, but they are so damn critical. Like our ecosystem is critical.
And when people go, oh, it's safe, like, because it only kills these things, but that's the only things they list. It will still kill all the good ones as well. They just don't list that. So, and I know, look, you dragged out the soapbox with me, but it was one of those things that I had to learn, that you need to balance them in the garden, and they will do the hard work for you. And look, I get pasture snails and things like that, and we just remove them. I know it sounds crazy that I've got all these flowers out there, but we just remove them and feed them to the chickens or things like that, and do it that way. But you just need to realize, attract the good ones, and they'll help you do that. There's some things like harlequin bugs that you just need to tap into soapy water and things like that, or squish them. Just please be careful. Make sure you wash your hands with soap afterwards if you squish a harlequin bug. But you just need to make sure you've got a really good balance in there for the garden. So, and that's by just planting lots of different things. So when we moved from Toongabbie to here, we went from like really small sections, because we love following permaculture practices and all the rest of it. So, you'd have the onions there. Well, now we have a whole bed of onions. I'm using my hands, I'm sorry, on a podcast. But then what happens is, but we've just done it on a grander scale. And that took a bit to adjust as well. But, you can do it in a small garden where you've got all these different things, and you get to enjoy much more during the year. So.
Oh, I absolutely love it. And I love that you're talking. I just love that all these little tips and tricks, like planting the yarrow, and I don't know. I think it's fantastic, and I think that people can grow a whole lot more in their small space. I mean, I know you're dealing with big space, but it's when you talked about before about the beetroot and the taste of it, and I think that my partner's just brought home a bag of oranges from someone at work who's got a tree, and we just guts them, because the taste is just amazing. The tomatoes that we grow are amazing. We've got a little veggie garden, and now we've got to fill these other two and do more. But the stuff you get out of your garden is unbelievably tasty, and I love it. So try not to squish all your bugs. Try to have a balanced. I think that's what we need to spend more time doing, is balancing our garden so that the bugs. Oh, and I know what I was going to say too before. When I was at Trafalgar, I had veggie gardens, and the cabbage moths, cabbage caterpillars were just eating everything. And by default, it just happened that I got a duck. I had chickens, but I got a duck. And the duck then started getting in and eating everything. And then the chicken thought, what are you eating? And then the chicken started getting in there. And before too long, they were managing the whole garden, and they were the best garden management crew I'd ever
Yeah.
had, and
Yep.
everything started growing and everything started flourishing because the ducks and the chickens were in there, doing all the hard work for me. So
Yep.
so many things you can do. Yeah.
We call our ducks and chicken and guinea fowl our team members.
Yeah.
It makes me feel better that I'm managing all. And look, as I've mentioned, scared of everything, including chickens and that beforehand. We've now got 13 ducks, and we've got 3 chickens and 2 guinea fowl. I got the guinea fowl because apparently they were great with snake alerting you and all the rest of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And because you can imagine, if I'm scared of chickens and everything else, I'm terrified of snakes. And you do get them on the farm, and Dave works away quite a lot. So I have to admit, before we got it, I saw a snake, and in the middle of the dahlia patch cutting, and look, it was 10 meters away, but I just cried because that's the immediate response you get to snakes. And then the chickens, they'll manage different things, but the ducks have been instrumental in helping us with our pasture snail problems. So our garden beds in the formal garden are all raised a bit. So the ducks go along the pathways and get out all the snails and slugs in between. The guinea fowl have ended up being great grasshopper catchers, so they help manage those. Yeah. And the chickens, they're just beautiful, and I love them, but they do help out sometimes. It's just once again, it's just using all my team members to their full potential. Yeah. And look, the cabbage moth and all the rest of it, if you can get the grubs off when they come up, yes. But it's only superficial on your cat. No one normally eats the outer layers anyway, or your broccoli and things like that. So I wouldn't even I kind of put it in a box of, I don't have time to be scraping off eggs. And if you can just deal with some holy leaves on your broccoli and everything, then leave them be, and then just get rid of the ducks, and all that will do the hard work for you. So it's picking your battles in the garden, and cabbage moths were not my battle this year, and it ended up being great. But the year before, they were eating my dahlias, so yeah, how can you win? But it's better and better, and you sort of learn what to focus on when. And if we see cabbage moth floating around now, we definitely go and keep an eye on all the dahlias and go like that. Yeah. So
I love it. I absolutely love it. And you did start up Gippsland last year. Did that program help you?
Yes, it gave me a network of other businesses that are close by that I really lean on. I've got Jen from Postcode Hives over in Traralgon, who's become a great person to bounce off. I've got Stephen and Alice from Hugh Charles that are just so good to have around. And then I've got Pete Collins, who's an architect, and he's redesigning our extension of our house. So, I would never have met Pete for that. I also got to meet you, and I've told you before, and I'm happy to say it again, you were instrumental in mentoring me. You saw that I was homeschooling. I was trying to keep my business afloat. I was trying to, keep it all together, pretend that I, am calm, pretend that I'm, keeping everyone happy. And you were instrumental in mentoring me in that aspect. So, and, we only had a couple of consults, and I was just forever grateful. It was just a game changer for me for that aspect of it all. So, for that reason, loved it.
I wasn't asking to get praise for myself, but I got it. Thank you. But I think that the key with that is to joining programs like that is that you're surrounded by people who are barracking for you. And I think that's what you need, and you do learn a lot of skills, and you do get mentoring, you do get support and that sort of stuff. But I think to be around constantly around this bunch of people that are all trying to lift their own businesses, and they're all backing you, and no one's competing, everyone's cheering. And I think that's what we need to find when we're starting a business, is find a group or a bunch of people that, as we said earlier, that are just going to keep lifting you up. And it's so important.
Yeah, networking is really important, and it's finding your gang kind of thing. I've been really lucky with them. And I know that if I was to ring up you know, Jen, all the boys, and just go, I'm having a heart attack. They drop everything and come and help, like, and vice versa, and all the, not a heart attack, but, you know, if I'm having a moment in my business that I just need help or a coffee or something like that, they're all happy to do it. Like, and I've caught up with all of them since, and it's just been the best. Like, and it's felt that we've known each other for a long time. So, or I've inflicted myself on them, one or the other.
I love that.
So no, that part was great.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I have loved this conversation where, you know, you are just you've shared so many not only gardening tips and some and insights, you know, about how we can, because I honestly do believe that we're poisoning this earth, we're killing this earth off, and I'm a big advocate for, you know, getting this planet back on track and you know, combating whether you call it climate change or global warming, or whether you call it screwing up the planet, I don't care what you call it. You know, we are going the wrong way. We have to pull ourselves back and we have to get better. And when you're gardening and doing all that kind of stuff, and it's it's as organic as you possibly can, you're only, you know, you might only be doing your patch, but you're not. You might think you are, but you're impacting the bees that come and go into other places, and the bugs that come and go into other places. And you know, I just love that you're really promoting that and you're really advocating for it, and you've shared some really healthy tips about how to do it. I find it really inspiring, and you've made me think, where can I plant some dahlias? I'm looking outside thinking, I'm going to put some flowers in with those veggies.
Dave, the romantic that he was when we first got together, he said, I'll grow flowers for you always, so that you never have to buy them. You'll always be surrounded by them. I'm like, touche. But, you know, it's just been the best approach, and everyone can grow them. Like, but it's just another thing that you have to learn, and you can't just plonk something in the ground and expect it's going to grow. And it's like that with relationships and friendships and everything else. You've got to put some love into it, and that includes, as I keep saying, horse poo, cow poo. Like, you just need to put some love into the ground, and then, you know, you will reap the benefits from that. And it's just, you know, once you start planting plants in their right conditions and everything else. And it's not something that you can't learn. I've had to learn this. My parents are beautiful gardeners, but they garden very differently to what I do. They are more decorative around their property and everything else. Well, for me, it's got to be practical. And when you find your garden style, like your business style, like, you know, everything else, you know it's right. So you just need to back yourself and believe in yourself and go from there. And please, by all means, get some. I've got tubers spare. Don't you worry about that. We'll get you sorted with your own dahlias for this year. So I just, I think more the joy that I receive, I just want everyone else to, and that's, as we say with the sprinkles, like, people just love sprinkling, and it's become full circle that I love that I'm sharing my joy with everyone, and they're sharing in return with me. Like, when people tag me or in things like that, or send me photos of their creations. I got a photo sent to me yesterday from Annabella, who's 10, and she decorated her mum's birthday cake, and it was beautiful with our flower sprinkles and everything else. So it's just one of those things that I love, that what I'm doing is just beautiful. It's hard work, but it's beautiful, and I love it. And I'm always, like Emma now, dirty and, you know, dirt under the fingernails and everything else. But it's just so much love goes into it, and then it's such a beautiful product, and then people are loving it in return. It just, you know, it's full circle. It's happiness. Well,
you're bringing joy to the world, and that's what we need. We need way, way, way more things. And, you know, you can just say, well, it's just sprinkles, you know, but what I'm always saying is, if every single person takes care of their patch, we're going to have millions and millions of patches of joy, you know, if everybody does their joyful thing. And that's the only way we can reach a fantastic tipping point, you know, of love and kindness and happiness in the world. And I don't care if people think I'm off my rocker.
No, I think you should also, if someone's like good at something, tell them. Like, there's nothing, like, I am forever stopping my car when you're allowed to, like stopping my car. And if I see someone in their front garden that is a beautiful garden, I'm more than happy to stop the car and tell them that their garden. I met the most amazing woman. She was in her 80s and her front yard in Traralgon was full of dahlias. And it was the prettiest garden I've ever seen. I stopped and I'm sure she thought I was a psychopath. But like, you know, and she said, thank you, that's made my day. And it took me 5 minutes of my life. And she gave me some great dahlia tips. So, you know, it's just something, if you see someone who is great at horse riding, tell them, like, just be kind to one another. And I think that's, you know, we need more kindness, as you say, in the world. So, you know,
100%. 100%. It's not hard to be nice, and I agree with you. I always say to people, "Oh, I love your dog. Oh, I love your jumper. You know, oh, that's cool. You know, I love your bag. You know, that sort of stuff." People get surprised. They do get a bit of a surprise. Who's this lunatic talking to me? But they feel great. You know, you can change somebody's day just by those. 100%. Now, I've got to ask you my get off the bench question, because this podcast is to inspire people to take action. So what advice would you give somebody who has a passion, you know, like a passion idea, so something that, but feels defeated because they simply can't see how it could work?
Okay. So I had a bit of a think about this, and I can pop it down to how I knew I was doing the right thing. I can be out in the middle of the hail. I can be out in the middle of the 40-degree sun. I can be out in the middle of the rain, you know, everything else. I can be out squishing grasshoppers, but I still knew I wanted to do it because I just loved it. If you know deep down that this is something that you really, really love and are willing to basically give it your all because you know deep down it's the right thing, then keep going. Keep backing yourself. And as we said, find people that support you and are willing to help put you back on your feet and push you along. You will know deep down it's the right thing. I didn't know it was flower sprinkles to start with, but I knew there was something for us in this farm that I could make happen. All I can say is keep going and keep trying. I'm not a very good risk taker. So, you know, I was still working at nights, you know, a few nights a week. And then basically we just had to say, I need to make the leap of faith, back yourself and keep going. If you're doing it in all these conditions that are just ridiculous and no one would normally do it, you know it's the right thing for you. Yeah. So keep going. And
I think intuitively we know, you know, yes. we're so good at doing what we've been taught to do, which is to, you know, listen to others and to, you know, not listen to ourselves. And we end up, you know, trying to satisfy other people and not wanting to be rejected and that sort of stuff. So I think we do have the answer in ourselves. You're right, you know. Yeah. I can give you an example as well, just for a visual for a podcast. There was one time that we had giant sunflowers and we had a huge storm come in so quickly, and out of nowhere, like we knew it was coming, but just not that epic. I'm standing there holding with my whole body, holding these giant sunflowers up because we didn't want to lose them, while Dave is staking them, and we are in fits of laughter, thinking, what the hell are we doing standing in a crazy storm holding up giant, like they were 8 feet sunflowers. And that's the moment then I knew it was the right thing for us and we were doing the right thing. So there's a visual for you. Oh, that's a bloody ripper. I'm sort of imagining, no, just get a tarp and just stand there under a bloody tarp. That would have been easier, but I held them up with all my might. These things they were heavy. And I'm like, hurry up, Dave. And it was just hilarious. So there's a visual for you. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's fantastic. I've loved this. This conversation's been so full of rich stuff. And I particularly love you talking about all the things that went wrong, because that's what people need to hear. You know, we need to hear that that having your own business and doing the thing that you love can bring you so much joy and reward, but it does not come without a hell of a lot of hardship, which I think is worth it, because the joyful results and the joyful rewards completely outweigh it. But it's been such an honest conversation, and I've loved it. Now, where can people find you?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Bon in the Garden. You can find me on there. That's where we share everything. So from our day-to-day antiques, you'll get way too much duck spam and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then also share how all our people that have purchased share their photos, and you can for inspiration. And we're working, so I'm hoping this website will be ready at boninthegarden.com.au. We'll be able up and selling on there, but in the meantime everyone just purchases through Instagram as well.
Yep. And what about LinkedIn? You're on LinkedIn, Bronwyn Manley?
Yes, I am on LinkedIn.
Yeah, probably not, doesn't use it enough, but anyway.
Startup Gippsland told me to use it, but yeah, I do check in on it, but Instagram is my main thing, and or otherwise you can find me on email at boninthegarden@outlook.com.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. This has been fantastic. So many tips, so much great stuff. And, you just, this episode is just will have brought so much joy to so many people. And I'm so bloody thankful that you said yes and joined me today.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time. Thank you. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, I'll catch you soon for that coffee.
Perfect.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.